Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Capitan,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
I am here.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Here.
Commissioner Sherling,
Here.
Commissioner Breitling.
Here. We have a quorum. Thank you. Taylor, if you lead us in the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Taylor? Commissioners, presume we've had a chance to review our prior meeting minutes. If so, look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Order of the agenda. I don't believe we have any amended items.
Move for approval.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. The order of the agenda be approved as presented. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Consent agenda. Again, presuming we had a chance to review the consent agenda. If so, look for a motion to approve, amend, discuss.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. The consent agenda be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we need to go to roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling.
Yes.
Motion passes. Taylor, I don't have my Teams meeting pulled up. Now is the time for public comment. If you are not on the agenda and wish to speak to the commission or address the commission, now is the time to do that. Anybody on Teams, check yourself. I'm not hearing anybody locally. Anybody on virtually? No. Okay. With that, last chance. On to the regular agenda. Item 1, MIDA bond public hearing. Post approval, Mr. Stewart. Welcome back to the courthouse, my friend. Been a long time. Like I told you before, it's like not even having a meeting if you're not here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, my name is Jim Stewart. I'm an attorney with Arnson, Stewart & Wagner. We are representing the YMCA of Cass and Clay County. They have requested the City of Frontier to issue bonds in the amount of $7,200,000 to finance a child care facility in South Fargo. That project is outside of their jurisdiction, so they have requested Cass County to give host approval to that financing. So at the conclusion of the public hearing, we do have a proposed resolution for your consideration. They would approve the issuance of the bonds by the City of Frontier and approve an agreement between Cass County and the City of Frontier. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Stewart before we open our public hearing? Any questions? Mr. Stewart, thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing for this. Those wishing to speak for or against, or neutral for that matter. And again, I don't have my virtual up here, so. Online, I presume there's not. Okay, one more chance before we close the public hearing. The public hearing is closed. Okay, thank you for participating in that public hearing. It's exciting for everyone in the audience, no doubt. Thanks for that sympathy laughter. Okay, commissioners, what are your wishes? You have before you a motion we can discuss. Amend the motion, Commissioner Sherling.
I would move to approve.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
with a comment.
Commissioner Grinberg, please.
I'm sure it's full before it's even built. It's another added amenity we need in our community, so daycare, childcare is a big deal. So.
Yes. One question for my finance director that I always ask, is there any financial risk to Cass County in any which way or form? Perfect, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan.
Wonderful, motion passes. Mr. Stewart, thank you. You'll be missed when you come back. You let us know ahead of time. We'll have flowers and all sorts of decorations here for you. Thank you, sir. Item 2 on our agenda, Fargo Tax Incentive for Kilbourne Group NP Project. Mr. Gilmore, hello, sir. Welcome back.
Good afternoon. The City of Fargo is working on kind of another public-private partnership. This is really a four-way partnership between the City of Fargo, Kilbourne Group's Great Plains NP Holdings, the Fargo Moorhead Community Theater, and Global Development that owns a portion of the parking lot. This would redevelop a large surface parking lot located west of Old Broadway, kind of between Old Broadway and Renaissance Hall. About 40% of that parking lot is owned by Global Development, which are also the owners of Old Broadway, and the Herbst building that's now vacant adjacent to Old Broadway. This parking lot, as we've kind of done a little bit of research, I think it was originally created about 1962. We found some pictures in the form of buildings being demolished, and so it's been a parking lot since then. It was also the site of an NSP power plant. Maybe Mr. Grinberg knows the history of that, but originally there was a power plant located there that served the City of Fargo. Those two parking lots have about 250 surface parking spaces. The city's done some parking studies, and we feel we need a parking garage of about 450 spaces at that location to serve future needs as well as the needs of this development. Mentioned about 40% of the site is owned by Global Development, who would be selling that site to this combined partnership of the theater, the city, and this apartment building that would be built by Great Plains and owned by Great Plains NP Holdings. The overall project is the city would be paying for this parking garage, estimated at a cost of right around $20 million. The Fargo Moorhead Community Theater would be one of the owners of the building, owning that theater space in there. I believe it's about 400-seat theater. They'll buy the cold shell or the shell and then finish that space out as a community theater. They have previously been in Island Park, and if you recall, the roof caved in on them, and they had to vacate that site. They're in what seems to be a temporary location over in Moorhead at this time. The apartments would be built again by this Great Plains NP Holdings. I believe it's about 160 apartments, 168 apartments, primarily smaller apartments, studios, and one-bedroom apartments. There'd be a few larger apartments in the building, but not that many of them. The fourth partner in their Global Development that owns a parking lot with parking now available, they will remodel that Herbst building. They'll do a renovation to that. Once this full project gets going, they want to make sure it gets going before they start on that. They've got about a 50,000 square foot building that's vacant right on Broadway. So they would develop that and then be able to use this parking. We think this overall development will encourage development on other parking lots to the north. There's, I believe, 3 individual parking lots in the block to the north, surface parking that could be converted to development. The agreement that we have, the city has with Great Plains NP Holdings was that they would be considered for incentives limited to a 5-year Renaissance zone and a 5-year tax increment financing note. And so what that does, it caps the amount that they can apply for. It didn't guarantee them that they could get it, but they have gone through the application process, and both applications were approved by the city, having met the city's criteria for those development. The second 5 years, that's what we're before you today. First 5 years, the state law allows the city to get 5 years without talking to the county and the schools, although you were notified of the TIF plan. So it's really the second 5 years is what we're looking at today, and I urge your approval of that. We did send this to our financial advisors. It passed that but-for test and would not be feasible without the city providing these 2 5-year property tax incentives. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but if you have specific questions for Kilbourne, I think they'd like to address the county, but before they come forward, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Perfect. Any questions for Mr. Gilmore?
I'll save mine for the developer.
So Mr. Gilmore, is this, you mentioned the parking ramp, so is this a $55 million project total then?
I believe it's over 60. The theater is about 10, the apartments are about 35, and we're at 20, so.
Okay,
And that
wonderful.
does not include the Herbst building, which will be probably another 5 to 10.
Okay, wonderful. Last chance, any questions? I suppose you can come back. Any questions, Mr. Gilmore? If not,
You asked my question.
okay, wonderful. Developer, again, you're not compelled to, you don't have to, but if you want to come up and talk at us, feel free, please. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Mike Almendinger with the Kilbourne Group, and wanted to just share a few highlights on the project, and happy to answer any questions as well. We're excited about the project. We've been working with the Old Broadway owners for about 4 years on the project, and since that time, we come up with what we think is a really strong project with a lot of key partnerships. These are complex projects to pull them together. It's been a parking lot since about the 1950s when the last demolition occurred, and the existing site does have a lot of contamination in the soils there. And that might be undocumented fill, which is brick, wood, debris, foundations in the soil, and along with some contaminations as well. There are, as you think about the reason why to support this project, there are some just simple inefficiencies when we're doing a public-private partnership with this. Like for around the garage, for example, there's a single loaded corridor, which means we have to build the hallway, and we get to build units on one side but not on both sides, just because it's wrapping the garage. So there's some inefficiencies there, but the reason that we still support that type of inefficiency is because the parking is so critical for this district. Overall, we've seen the success of the Roco project and the Mercantile project as good examples in Fargo, where these mixed-use developments with parking, provide parking for the entire district. As Jim Gilmore noted, that there's other surrounding surface parking lots that I'm sure will be redeveloped in the future because they now have parking available to them that's owned by the City of Fargo, and it's considered public parking. So key components to the reason why these district parking garages are so important. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to ask them.
Questions for our owner?
Mr. Chairman, just to maybe clarify the boundaries of this 5-year TIF, is that the actual site itself specific?
No.
Mr. Gilmore, please. Thank you.
I didn't bring along the map, but the TIF will include this block, the half block to the north, and the block that Bell Bank is on, as well as across the street in 501 Main. So it's about a 3-block area will be the TIF. I also should mention that there's a representative of the Fargo Moorhead Community Theater. If you have any questions on that part of the project, there's a representative here.
Maybe just to continue, Mr. Chairman, and Jim, then just to maybe add to that, my understanding is there another application coming from the City of Fargo?
Yeah, we'll contact you once we get further, probably in the next 60 days on, the city using the TIF. I know there was a change of state law. It's still not completely clear, and so I'm trying to work that out with our city attorney.
I think it's clear. I think it's absolutely clear.
I think we both think it's clear, although we don't agree on what it says.
Yes, we both have great lawyers that I'd be happy to utilize.
I guess I'd like to just know what we're asking for today as developers, it's the increment that we are creating out of our project. That's the increment that we're asking for for the 5-year Renaissance zone and the 5-year TIF. So that our ask that has, I believe, is not applicable to the TIF that the City of Fargo is asking for.
Sure, which then specifically is those parking lots.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Any further questions for our owner? Commissioner Brightly.
The retail space that's allocated to your proposal is what, only about 3,000 square feet?
Yeah, well, yes, so we
The
have,
reason I ask is that the larger the retail, the more inclined I am to support it because it generates sales tax.
yes.
But with a small area, that you're not going to generate much.
So our project includes 2,500 square feet of retail, and so think of that as one new business going in there. I think what's unique about this project compared to other projects we've worked on, we have oftentimes, worked on, if you take the Roco garage, for example, where 46 North, Youngblood, and, all the way over to Beer and Fish, there's probably 10 businesses that are new from that project because of that garage. At this location here, our retail that we're building out is only the 2,500 square feet. But Judy Lewis is here with the FMCT, and she, their organization is purchasing the 30,000 square feet on the retail side or on the first floor for the theater. Which is a huge community benefit to have that population coming down there and be driving the traffic because of all of the activities that they do. And I think the way that we've looked at it is that this is going to spur, we know new businesses either across the street or in those existing structures or the surface parking lots that will be built because there is, the new demand. So I don't think the businesses aren't going to happen on our particular project, but they will happen in the district.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Would you like
Yep.
to?
I would. I
Yeah.
am bursting at the seams to just share. My name is Judy Lewis, and I'm the executive director of the Fargo-Moorhead Community Theater. And thank you so much for taking this moment to hear from us. We will bring every Saturday of the year 200 adults to our building for the classes that we hold, who will be spending money downtown, lots of it, because they'll drop their students off and then they've got an hour or two to kill. So they're going to go and spend money downtown. We do, this year at the MCOMST, we have engaged 40,000 people at the MCOMST this year, and 40,000 people the year before. I anticipate that we will engage at least 60,000 people our first year in the new space. So we will be bringing people, we will be bringing families, we will be bringing lots and lots of opportunity to bring life to downtown. So I think that there's great opportunity, even though we're using 25,000 square feet to put all those little bodies and adult bodies, we're gonna be generating a lot of tax money.
Just a bit of trivia, before you had your structural issues, I actually worked in your building. I volunteered a lot of time.
Thank you.
Trying to figure out what it was gonna be, and then your landscape architecture firm figured the connection between what we were doing, and then we had the collapse. So, yes, I've spent personal time and capital and
Yeah.
treasure on your facility, and I was happy to do it.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, if that helps put you where my mindset might be.
Thank you.
I think that it's a great project. I think this team that you've been working on over 4 years, yeah, complex, pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna do good things. Is Nibby still working there?
Yeah,
Tell Mr. Nibby
yeah.
that I said hi.
Okay, well, he's
And
not
he'll-
there every
he'll
day,
know
but we work with
exactly
him
what I
on things. I know, I will. I'm gonna say that. Perfect.
I've known Nibby since college.
That's awesome.
Yeah, anyway, that guy.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would just commend the application and the effort. As we know, this has been reported in the media over the past number of months, years. A lot of hard work's gone into this project to get it to this point. What I like about it is, it brings in the community theater with a home that's really going to be a showcase facility and augment the whole development that Kilbourne is leading. And so I just think from a standpoint of that perspective, what it's going to do for downtown is going to be wonderful. And I also appreciate the wise approach with the financial proposal, 5 and 5. That seems reasonable and makes sense to me at a $60 million project. By contrast, if you look at Block 9 and the effort to approve that project, there was a parking lot that was collecting $3,000 a year in property tax, and there was a 20-year TIF on that piece of land that equated to, when that comes on the tax rolls at $130 million, is a sound investment for taxpayers. So here, similarly, you're talking about parking lot land, and developing for about half that for for 10 years. So those numbers just kind of ring home for me, and just commend you on your efforts to put this forward. So, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for a motion, I'd make the...
Any further discussion or questions for our team? Commissioner Capitan, please.
Well, I'm not gonna belabor the information saying my daughter was a performer at not only Trollwood for about 10 years, but FMCD for 7 before she pumped the concrete in New York City.
Wow.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to participate in the request for the tax increment financing in the City of Fargo submitted by the Kilbourne Group.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Capitan,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brightling, Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Motion passes. Anything further from the city or our owners? Okay, another
you.
awesome Kilbourne project.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Mike, you guys just do good work. Thank you. Any further discussion on this item, team? If not, move to item 3. Jail medical staff management, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the admin staff for the county, myself, Captain Frobig at the jail, a number of you at various times in the past have had a number of conversations with Fargo Cass Public Health and others within the city of potentially at some point making some other arrangements for the provision of inmate medical services at the jail. We've heard from Fargo Cass Public Health a number of times over several years that they really feel that this is something that is sort of outside the traditional scope of public health and really stretches their abilities, and that's in a steady state environment, let alone when we've got inmates, a larger number of inmates, greater population, and also inmates that are having more serious health challenges than they've had in the past. In addition to coming up in the next couple of years when we have a new jail housing addition come online, where we will have a greater volume, just a greater number of inmates that will require health care. Ms. Fleming, who is online with us this afternoon, reached out to me about a month ago and just reintroduced the conversation of thinking it may be time to re-engage this dialogue of at what point should the county consider provision of inmate medical care. And I must compliment Ms. Fleming that this was very collaborative and there were no deadlines or ultimatums whatsoever associated with this conversation, but it was just simply reiterating what I know I've heard before, that they feel like they're not ideally suited for this and can provide the current level of jail nursing services, but no additional services, and knowing that the number of inmates and the seriousness of the health challenges of some of those inmates are increasing, that we may want to consider alternative ways to provide that service. So based on that initial conversation, we followed up with some internal conversations of how we might do that. And those included HR, jail administration, IT. I know we looped finance into those conversations. I don't know if we actually had schedules matched up that we had you at the table at any of those, but I think you were aware that we were having those conversations. And I think there's no two ways about it. This would be an extraordinarily heavy lift, but there are I understand where the the perspective of Fargo Cass Public Health in bringing it forward. And as we explored what we would need to do to put in place to do this, felt like needed to bring it forward to this board and really get some policy level direction if you want us to continue to pursue this. I think the far and away the biggest challenges that we're going to have if we do this is the HR, the recruitment and retaining employees. We do not really at this point have a mechanism to supervise, recruit medically trained individuals. Fargo Cass Public Health has indicated that there certainly would be a way to have some consultation or some ongoing involvement to some level. There also is a medical director independently contracted that we could most likely continue that relationship, and so we would have that ability. But it's again, just for all these reasons, wanted to bring this conversation forward to hear your thoughts at this point. In my most recent conversations with Chair Peterson, we hadn't previously really put a timeline on this, but to Chair Peterson, to your credit, said let's just name a potential effective date of 1/1/25, realizing the level of effort that would go into that. And that's not, again, that's not presupposing what this board would give us as direction, but I think that's what we would be looking at if this moved forward. With that, I would stand by either for your questions or perhaps Desi would like to share some comments from a Fargo Cass Public Health perspective.
I'd like to let Ms. Fleming jump in on this, please. Ms. Fleming, your thoughts on what Mr. Wilson tried to explain to us? Is he lying to us? Is he telling us the truth? Is he somewhere in between?
Yeah, he's got a pretty good handle of this. We've been meeting quite frequently, and realistically, we've had these conversations for several years. You know, I think when public health started with the jail, it really was about screenings and coming in and doing HIV testing or TB treatments and that type of thing. And, for, no fault of anyone's, it just kind of morphed and grew over the years. And now it's become this very, direct care driven service that just feels like it's very much not in the wheelhouse of public health anymore. So we've kind of seen this transition across the state. We've obviously had the most robust presence within the jail throughout the state. They've had some in Bismarck and Grand Forks. Bismarck did transition their public health employees to county employees for the jail there. And so we've kind of seen that trend. And we have our limitations too for staffing, and so I think it just kind of came to a head being with the discussion of the expansion and knowing that we're kind of tapped out, and that's really where we're at. So by no means is this us just throwing the county out. We are very happy to provide, Mr. Wilson has said, like that piece of, supervision for the staff there, whether it's management type consultation that they need, or, the Board of Nursing really is going to be that nursing practice resource. But we are very happy to, be in the loop of that if there's assistance that is needed. But right now, they have a really good group of staff there. Things have really tightened up there as far as efficiencies and getting processes in place. So things are running very smoothly, but they do have super high numbers as well. And so we just don't want to be a barrier either when we say, we can't provide any more staff. We don't want that to impact the quality of care at the jail either. So that's kind of where this is all kind of coming from.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Mr. Wilson, anything further to add? This is a non-action item, just more information for our fellow commissioners, but this would be the time to start asking questions and getting our stew stirring. Mr. Wilson.
The only additional comment that I would have is maybe as a complement to this issue, or a supplement, is the final paragraph on my briefing memo, where when we had this first conversation a month or so ago, there was also a suggestion that there are a couple of positions in jail medical right now that I believe the Fargo Cass Public Health recommendation would be to switch those positions from exempt to non-exempt. And I would anticipate that needs to be a conversation in and of itself, separate than this overall medical service. But it originated at the same time. I wanted to bring it to your attention at the same time, and I think that one will follow up with potential action sooner than this larger question.
Thank you.
And Mr. Wilson, if I could add into that, so we did fill now our last open LPN position. So we would like to have that in place, and just to kind of see where duties fall out and where hours fall out before we make any changes. I know we've talked about the nursing supervisor position there, and how our goal is to have that be a supervisory position and not a working, doing the duties type position. And so I think if you can give us just a little bit to see where we land with being fully staffed, and then we will, talk if we need to push that other agenda item forward.
Mr. Wilson.
Absolutely, I will stand down on that element until you bring it back to me.
Perfect.
Hey, commissioners, any questions on this? Some commentary before we move on. It's time for us to evolve into our own organization internally. I think that our friends at Fargo Cass Public Health have done an amazing job helping us get through the hump over the last handful of decades, maybe longer than that probably, but it's time. And I think I picked an arbitrary date of January 1st and 25. That should give our HR team, should give our law enforcement team, as well as us, hopefully anyway, enough time to work with our friends at Cass Public Health to figure out what's next. And as in the memo it states, there's a couple of counties that have done this, and I think that gives Mr. Wilson time, as we've discussed, Mr. Wilson, you time to talk to your peers too, to find out how other folks are doing this nationwide, to see if they can do a better job than our friends, and if not, we replicate what they've done locally, meaning, I guess, statewide, locally, right? And move forth. Anything else, commissioners? If not, next item, transfer opioid litigation funds, Mr. Wilson.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is again, a conversation that Ms. Fleming and I have had off and on for a couple of months here. I think, Mr. Chair, I believe you and some elected officials with the city have also had a conversation about potential for pooling some of the proceeds that we've received out of our role in the opioid multi-district litigation that's been going on for a number of years. Now that with a number of settlements that of defendants in those cases starting to come through, and the financial piece of those settlements, there are payments that are being received, and in many cases will be received for 10, 15, in some cases longer than that. And so there's an opportunity to do some good. Obviously, there are stipulations with these proceeds that are received. They have to go to prevention mitigation efforts. As of Friday, when I checked in with the finance office, I was surprised to learn that Cass County to date has received more than $126,000. But it was a good reminder that I know through Fargo Cass Public Health, the City of Fargo has set up a plan and opioid settlement fund and future strategies proposal to utilize these funds and to provide mitigation efforts across the community. And I think the money that we have currently sitting in account, and as we look to Fargo Cass Public Health for our public health services to begin with, this makes sense to pool the resources and utilize in a coordinated fashion. One thing I did not mention in the memo that Ms. Fleming may want to speak to is there's also within these settlements, there's a large portion of the funds that are directed to the state level. And I think the greater collaboration and coordination we show on the local level, we also have potentially a greater ability to access state level funds. Desi, am I speaking out of turn on that point?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that will improve our chances or not, but
Okay.
I did want to mention that you as a county really have two options for this money that was set out in our legislature that was passed. You can return your money to the state fund and have it, be used as the state chooses, or you can pool it with local public health. So we are not your only option. I would like to think we would be your preferred option, but you certainly have the ability to return it to the state level as well. But I also will say that as far as harm reduction activities within the state, we are probably far and above what is developed in other areas. So we typically are the ones that the state looks to for guidance on many items. So I think we do have a really good history of doing, really good things with harm reduction.
Mr. Wilson, anything further to add?
But last point is that this is an informational item today. We do not have a formal agreement document for your consideration. If that is the intent of the board, we will have that drafted, and I don't anticipate that would be particularly difficult to put together, and we would be back in front of you for potential action on that.
Wonderful. Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. So, the needs are many and the funds are not adequate, but it's a start. I'm wondering what kind of input, if any, that Cass County would have if we pool our money. Noting that, for example, future strategies proposal, that's where work with the jail is mentioned. So certainly not a priority. I'm not really seeing anything for veterans services directly, so I'm just wondering what kind of input we will have, if any.
Just as an update, Robin, who is our substance use coordinator here, has already reached out to Captain Frobig and Sheriff Johnner at the jail and asked if we could provide naloxone to inmates when they are discharged, and they have responded positively to that, so I assume that will be starting as quickly as we can get that organized.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Wilson or Ms. Fleming? Just to clarify one item Mr. Wilson mentioned, I did meet with Mayors Mahoney and Mayors Dardis, as well as with a number of other team members, and everyone was sort of unified in that. To reinforce what you said, Commissioner Sherling, some of us had hoped that maybe these resources garnered from the money these folks made off this, call it drug dealing or whatever you want to call it, would be substantive enough to actually start making a difference, and this ain't that. But we're slow walking this as best we can, and as I said in our prior meeting, this is not something I would like to do necessarily regarding passing out the Narcans and those sorts of things, because I think like needle exchanges, all those things, they may make us feel good, but I think we simply enable. And again, I'm not an expert in this, but our reality is we need to spend exponentially more than this. And that's the painful discussion that we seem as a state and a region to avoid as often as we can, because we realize that I love this as an intermediate step. I love needle exchanges as an intermediate step, but we seem to, again, to forget the big step of mental health, chemical dependency, counseling, actual centers where people can go and get help, and funding those centers. And again, we do have the resources. We've got billions of dollars if we have the political will behind it to help people exponentially more than giving them fresh needles every time they walk by a box and giving them naloxone. Again, we're never going to cure it, not possible. But that next step is the necessity. And we are one of the few states in the United States, few governments in the world that have the resources to start making a difference. We're just not doing it. So I think this is a necessary evil, for lack of a better term, and I think that our friends at Fargo Catholic Health are going to do the best they can with limited resources as they've done in the past. So I'm glad they're doing this. I'm glad we're able to pool our money, and Ms. Fleming and her team are able to do what they think is best, whether it's handing out this, whether it's counseling our friends at the jail as they exit our jail, or whatever it comes into, whatever Ms. Fleming and team deem the best solution, given, again, limited resources in the near future. But again, this is a much, much bigger problem that we are ignoring, and to my frustration, and yeah.
And I would add in, although I recognize there are people with differing opinions, but harm reduction isn't about just giving out supplies. And I mean, every time you touch someone, when you have an encounter with them, it's an opportunity to educate, to assess where they're at, to provide, treatment resources, different things. I mean, we do know that most people can't just stop using a substance first time without any, so you're meeting them where they're at, and each time you have that encounter, you have a higher chance of, getting to a healthier path. And so I think that's kind of how we have to look at it a little bit.
Yep, and Ms. Fleming, maybe let me clarify. You and I agree, actually. I just think we need to do that. We need to have that better next step for them so that we do have that ability to contact them, whether it's through a needle exchange, whatever, that we've got somewhere they can go for help if they want it, somewhere that's going to be substantive. Like I said, like I've learned anyway, methamphetamine, 9 months. We need somewhere for those folks to go to at least get better. And right now, I don't think we have that. And I look at our friends in our state legislature, one session to go try to close beds at Jamestown, when we should be doubling and tripling and everything else. With everything we've got going on locally, we should be expanding services, not reducing them.
We're also doing really good work at the Downtown Engagement Center. So if any of you are ever wanting to have a tour of that facility, we're adding more, different community partners to that. We're having some cultural programs as well so that we can approach, wellness and substance use with a cultural lens. And so I think all of that is a step in the right direction.
You and I agree. Commissioner Breitling.
We had a motion to direct the staff to work with the city of Fargo and the city of West Fargo to attempt to develop an agreement that responds to all three of those entities.
Yeah, I don't think that would be, I don't know that we need a motion, but it can't hurt.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Mr. Wilson, Ms. Fleming, do you need anything else from us?
I think we've got great direction. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms.
Yeah,
Fleming, are we good?
Thank you.
All right.
We are good. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today, Ms. Fleming. Again, thank you for you and your team. Make sure they know how grateful we are for them.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Desi.
All right, we will push
Thanks.
on to item 5, jail inmate housing costs. Sheriff, Captain Freubig, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. I bring before you today some information in relation to housing costs at the Cass County Jail. It was a little while back. I think this board asked kind of what we were seeing for some going rates and what the average cost to house someone in our facility was. So Captain Freubig, who obviously has a lot of knowledge in this capacity, put some stuff together for you guys, which I included in my letter here that I submitted for the agenda. And so probably much of it was self-explanatory, but if you guys have further questions, myself or Captain Freubig can answer those for you. But certainly we just wanted to bring that information forward to you guys so you could look at it to see what we think is prudent with revenues coming into the jail, taxpayer dollars, and things of that nature to make a good decision. And I kind of pushed Chair Chair Peterson to get this on this agenda, because certainly the cities of Fargo and West Fargo are preparing their budgets now, and they need to know of the change if we were gonna change it, so that they could budget appropriately to accommodate the change, so.
Commissioners, questions? This is a big number, but you've heard me speak in the past, and Mr. Montplaisir, Ms. Rodriguez's predecessor, always tried to let and to our prior sheriff, Sheriff Laney, good friend, where we've always been at this $65, $75, $85 number. We're at 85 now. And the reality of this, it's exponentially more for us to house these folks. And what we often forget about is the amortization of the building and the wear and tear on the building, right? We just count staff numbers, staff time. Our friends in HR direct us with budgets and say this is what it is. It's actually exponentially more when we start talking about investments that county residents are making to these facilities. So Captain Freubig, do you want to jump in on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would just add that, this is, I think, the first fully comprehensive every nickel we spent down to the sewer and trash collection, not just the sheriff's office budget. The numbers would have actually been quite a bit higher if we hadn't seen the significant increase in population that we've seen over the last year. We're now averaging well over probably 310 inmates a day, whereas up until about a year ago it was 285. So if you reduce the average number of inmates, that would actually raise the daily cost. This is only through 2022 though, so it's not an estimate of what we're spending this year. So inflationary is probably still a bit higher than the 114 that was cited for 2022. This is a gross cost, so I figured since we're talking about reimbursements, I didn't want to include any net after reimbursements we did receive, so we could just figure out what is the proper rate. And just for comparison, for January of next year, Burleigh County is going to $100 per day. Stutzman County is going to the $100 range. Grand Forks is doing a little bit of a goofy thing, but they're going to have two different rates based on the severity, the needs of the inmate. 100 for a general population, and then they're adding in an annual 2.5% increase that'll be automatic on an annual basis. So starting in 2024, they will be up to 102.5 per day.
And Mr. Chair, certainly my suggested motion was just a guideline or what I was thinking potentially, but I'm open it's up to you guys really.
Yep. Commissioner Grinberg.
One curious question and timing, I guess. First one is timing. So you're looking for that, obviously, at this meeting to send a message as the cities go through their budget process in July, August, September? Or is this for information now, consideration 2 weeks from now? And that's kind of a loaded question, because my second question is, do we have any ties administratively with your department, Jesse, with emergency management?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Grinberg, so we would be, I thought it'd probably be best to decide on this today so that we could let our partners know what it would be so they could budget appropriately.
To take effect for 24
years. Yeah, to take effect in 2024, if that's what you're asking. So.
Again, this might be a stretch, and I'm not going to elaborate on details, but if we waited 2 weeks, we might have an opportunity to visit about this a little bit. They don't have to have their budgets done until September 30th.
Okay.
But, just like us, that would give us some ample time to think through it. Are we making sure we're covering all the bases here?
Sure.
Or if so, approve it appropriately 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
I wasn't
sure
sure what their budget timelines were. I thought we were probably under a little bit more pressure. I thought theirs were a little bit quicker than ours, but if that's the case, I'm fine with that too. You guys could discuss it today, and if you want to do something different.
Yeah, so real quick before Commissioner Breitling, so Commissioner Grinberg, I wanted to get this in front of us sooner rather than later. I think that obviously to serve our friends that are our neighbors in our cities, but I wanted us to get these numbers. This is a big number. And again, it's not a bad number. It's probably the number that should have been for the past handful of years, and maybe not at 120, but that should have been 100, 105, 110, some number greater than what we've been charging. So my intent again was to expedite this to us more so than to force the issue today.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Totally appreciate that. And I guess where I was coming from the Group B rotation earlier, we have some arm wrestling going on costs and who's covering what.
Sure.
And if there's a legitimate tie to emergency management under this with these costs of housing inmates. Again, I'm speculating on that, but if there is, should we be having that as a comprehensive review before we pass a specific number? That's my only 2 cents on that.
Yeah. I guess I'm not sure what the specific tie would be. So am I thinking something different?
Commissioner Breitling, then Mr. Wilson.
Question, the figure that you're talking about, is this what we pay, for example, to Jamestown, or
So, Commissioner Breitling,
how do they compute
Yeah,
that,
so-
their cost to us?
their cost of computing and their daily rate is the same process we've gone through. Figure out how much you're actually spending and then divide it by the total inmate days to come up with a number. So right now, Grand Forks is the only facility that has increased their cost to $100 a day. So we're using them last because we're paying them $100 a day every time we send an inmate to bunk with them. We're sending a few there, only when nobody else is available. But come January 1st next year, we'll be paying Burleigh County $100 a day. We'll be paying Stutzman County $100 a day. We'll be paying Burleigh County $100 a day for any overflow that we have. And then they would be paying us if we have to hold for them.
Thank you for that information.
Commissioner Sherling, then Mr. Wilson.
So what are we charging federal inmates?
75.
And why is that?
Okay, so the, Commissioner Sherling, the federal contract is eligible for renewal. It is a long, extensive process. You have to prove to them what your costs are, so I needed to do this first before we can even move forward, and then I need to just frankly find the time to be able to start working on that. So if we can get established that this is what we're actually spending here, it gives us a lot of leverage plus what everybody else's costs are to be able to negotiate what that rate is. We have to negotiate it through Washington. We have to give them all the data for our actual expenses, our actual salary costs, how much overtime we're incurring and all of that. And then I have no doubt that we're gonna be able to get that up as well as its own independent contract. So right now, our primary users are above and beyond anything else, City of Fargo, then West Fargo, then the US Marshals, and then other counties in North Dakota. So that's ultimately whatever number we choose to make it. What we'd be looking to do would be to standardize all of that. And then, of course, the DOCR contract as well, but we really don't use that one other than for parole violations.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sherling, I think there's a number of factors that are involved with, since we haven't negotiated a contract with them for a while, and some considerations of our capacity and not wanting to get locked into a certain amount of beds and stuff as we work through our population stuff right now. And then, much like Andy said, with the cost. So we've had somewhat of a gentleman's agreement with them for a little while now based on past contract. So
It is my goal, for what it's worth, to get that one done well before we get our new addition close to done. Because then if they come back asking for more beds, you have to reopen the contract then. Usually those are for 5 years. If you want more than the 40, we may be able to get leverage to get a little bit of a bump there as well.
Commissioners, further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd make the motion to approve today. I think as, follow on, maybe we can visit with Robert to see if there's any, just to make sure we're capturing all the thoughts in this process. We can always come back and amend it, but at least it sends a message. So I'd make that motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson, sorry.
The only thing I was going to say in response to Commissioner Grinberg's question was, is there any overlap or relation between jail costs and emergency management? As discussed earlier, would be in the case of a flood fight when we use inmate labor, or if there were some ultra extreme example where jail had to be evacuated or something like that. That's the only area where I see those arenas intersecting. I've got people who know much more than I do in the room who can correct me, but that would be my feeling.
That makes sense. I would just freshen the memory to make sure we have a quick discussion.
And then if I could just add one piece in there, is the 120 that I put in here. I mean, obviously, Mr. Frobeck's numbers were that 114, right around that 114. It's kind of what he averaged the daily expenses to be. I was thinking that it's been quite a few years since we've talked about this one. And so I was kind of trying to find something close to that number, but then maybe out you know, if we don't, not talking about this every year, to kind of find that. So that was just a suggestion from me, whether you got, I mean, you guys think that's right or less or whatever, that's. So.
Sheriff, the way I'm reading this motion is essentially as a placeholder in the budget, so we can start that dialogue, open it up, allow our team to work with our sheriff's department to validate the concerns and move forward. Much like anything we set here at the end of July, we'll be setting a budget as well that may or may not yield results when we get to the actual final date. But I think it's a sound message to push forward in that costs have gone up exponentially so, and yeah, we need to start talking about that. And this gives our friends in our local jurisdiction some time to have a dialogue internally and figure out what they need to do. So, any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Sherling,
Just
please.
one other comment. I wondered, just to that last point, if during your budget, you shouldn't be looking at an inflationary number every year so that we're not behind all the time. It's just a thought.
Any further discussion? If not, I am going to roll call on this.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan? Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Sheriff, before I begin anything further.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Captain Frobe for putting all this information together. I know he spent a lot of time on it, obviously very good at this information, so I appreciate his work in doing so.
Well done, sir.
Is this something, the motion that you want me to spearhead finding more, or you guys have more questions?
Mr. Wilson and HR and accounting will get a
So you're
hold of
looking
you.
at accounting, because I just wasn't sure if,
Yep, your finance.
that's where I got everything from.
And it may be nothing more than an email and done, but just in case.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6 is the reconvening of the County Board of Tax Equalization. Mr. Wilson first, then I'll jump on, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I anticipate that this is going to be a very short agenda item for you this afternoon. Your tax equalization director, Mr. Frakazi, has another commitment at a conference this afternoon, and we would look to have you consider a motion to table action at the County Board of Equalization and reconvene the board on Wednesday, July 5th, during the regular meeting of the Cass County Board of Commissioners meeting.
The intent, Commissioner Shirley.
Go ahead.
You want to make the motion?
Oh, no,
Oh.
I have a question.
Yeah, so real quick, the intent of this is that we can't close the hearing without him there, otherwise it's done and moving on. And I thought we have so many before us that my fear was that if any one of us had any questions, we would wreck the whole gang. So I thought it was best to wait 2 weeks. It's not an issue in terms of timeline for our friends in the state or our friends in any of the cities or townships. So I thought it best just to wait so we can all have our questions answered simultaneously in lieu of starting the train rolling down the path and then finding out we have to stop the train anyway. So, Commissioner Shirley.
So just a clarification procedurally, because I've been contacted about this, so I just want to make sure that this is very clear, that there was a number of folks that were here that had concerns about questions about their assessments. They were directed to go back and talk to the tax equalization office and hopefully get it sorted out. If they didn't, if they're not happy with the answers they got, if they still protest those, the time to come would be at our next meeting where they could bring those up and voice their concerns, and we would vote individually on those as we have in the past, or you're shaking your head and telling me no. So that's why I'm asking for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner. Great question. We have had the public hearing. It is done. The next time would be state. So they can still interact as they see fit with our tax people, but coming before us and giving their view of their assessment, that was last week. We had the open, we advertised, open, closed. That's when you have an opportunity. Your next stage is, if you disagree, you proceed to Bismarck.
That's what I was going to say. If they disagree with our opinion, they can go to the state.
Yep, so they still have a level to appeal. It's not as though everything is done and said.
No, I understand that, but I think there's some confusion there where folks thought even if they went back and had their property looked at again, I'm not sure that there was that understanding that they were losing their opportunity to state their case here.
Just to us, yes.
I'm almost 99% certain that you can only go to the state if you also went to your local. So like if you live in Fargo, you would have had to go to Fargo and then the county to go to the state. If you only came directly to the county, you can't go to the state.
Okay, that should be clarified.
I'm almost 99% certain that Paul has said that many times in the past.
Yeah, I think you didn't have to show up and be present. You had to notify somehow saying, I disagree with this.
But you had to also notify at the city level and then escalates to the county and then state.
Oh, yeah, but that's why we had our local friends here.
Yeah.
Any further questions on this? If not, look for the motion, please. To table. Or did someone make that motion already? I didn't think so.
Move to table.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, there is no discussion on table, you dummy. There we go. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Item 7, second reading of amendment ordinance for burn restriction. Mr. Prochniak?
Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners, you may recall that on May 10th, I was before this body asking for consideration in the first reading of a change to our Cass County Ordinance 2005-3. And essentially, all we are changing is burn ban to burn restrictions everywhere it's delineated in that document. No change to the penalty, but we certainly want to be in compliance with the move by our legislature, and then certainly that makes it seamless when it comes to potential enforcement, which is a Class B misdemeanor. And so I'm before you today with the suggested motion of the approving of the second reading in the amendment of 2005-3. Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners, I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Once again, more of a housekeeping item than anything else, just to make sure all our books read the same. Any discussion or questions, or Commissioner Capitan?
I move to approve the second reading.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moving second, any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan? Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Project, anything further, sir?
Nothing, Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right, item 8, Vision Zero Outreach Coordinator, update.
Afternoon, Mr. Chair,
You
Commissioners.
don't look like Miss Clem.
I wanted to briefly introduce our Vision Zero coordinator. I know you met her a year ago. So about a year and a half ago, we had the opportunity to hire the Southeast Region Coordinator, and Leah was hired in April of 2022. And so she's been on the job for just a little over a year, and I thought it was appropriate to have her give an update on the different activities that she's doing, not just only for the county, but for the region, but definitely specific to what she's been doing for Cass County and its residents. So, Leah.
Rock and roll. Welcome.
Thank you. All right, thank you, commissioners. So, like Jason said, and like the agenda says, my name is Leah Kelm, and I am the Vision Zero Outreach Coordinator for the Southeast region of North Dakota. And last time I talked to you, I only had a few months, so my outreach, I told you more about the entire region, and so today it'll be just more about what I've been doing in Cass County. So, Catlin, will you scroll, please? There we go. So, I know that most of you are familiar with Vision Zero, but if anyone isn't, I just wanted to give a little bit of a definition or an overview, and it's North Dakota's initiative to try to get us to zero motor vehicle fatalities. And Catlin, to the next one, please. And so the reason, obviously, this is very important is because every year we lose about 100 people on our roadways. And when we think about the amount of people in the country and the amount of people in the world, maybe that doesn't seem like a lot, but that really is a lot. Every one of those people, they have a family They're maybe part of a softball team. They're maybe not going to make it to the lake this summer. There are so many different reasons that these people matter. And so everything that we can do to try to save lives on our roadways is something that we do through Vision Zero. One positive is last year we were the lowest for fatalities that we had been in 20 years. The program was the 5th year anniversary of Vision Zero was in January. And so the program has been going on, but thankfully our fatality number is trending down, which is something that obviously we're very excited about. So, Catlin, next slide, please. So how we go about this with Vision Zero is taking a 4-prong approach. So we call this our 4 E's, which we have engineering, and I'm based out of the highway department, so I have a very nice, easy access to those smart brains over there as we talk about infrastructure. Also enforcement. I am very, very thankful to be hosted in Cass County because of our wonderful sheriff's department, or sheriff's office. And we also work with EMS, that post-crash, to make sure that they're provided with what they need so that they can get people to the locations where they can receive the best medical care. And also education, which is where I come in and many other organizations and agencies partner together so that we can spread this awareness and we can spread information and education to people throughout our state, and especially in my case, in my region. So next, Catlin. There are 4 of us in the state, and 2 of us are based out of highway departments and 2 of us are based out of sheriff's offices, which works very well with our 4 E's because they are readily available to us. As you can see, I have the smallest region. Do not let that fool you. It's definitely the busiest I caught on. So as we move on to the next slide, last time when I had started, I had done things in Cass County, but it wasn't to the level that I have done them now. So over the past year since I talked to you last, or since actually October, when you signed my contract again, I have been able to present 13 Impact Teen Driver presentations to schools within our county. So at Kindred, Northern Cass, Central Cass, West Fargo, Cheyenne, and Horace. And so I was able to do that for teen drivers, 2 separate presentations that are evidence-based and nationwide. I also was able to do a Vision Zero Day at Northern Cass with our school resource officer up there, School Resource Deputy Nettiston. I did lunch hour traffic safety stations in Kindred with the students there, with our School Resource Deputy Korber. Cheyenne High School Field Day, and also still with the schools and the education side, I did also do a Fargo Adult Learning Center car seat check with a lot of our new English-speaking students. On a general side of outreach in our county, one of the best or favorite things that I have done for our actual county employees was I partnered with Safe Kids and we did a car seat training or education for our human service zone. So all of the people that are transporting those littles, just helping so that they know the best practices when it comes to moving them from point A to point B. And actually, I was able to do that because Catlin posted something in our newsletter about me becoming a certified passenger safety technician, and they reached out. So I'm glad that I can be a resource for our county. Also done a very, very, very wide variety of community events. And also we have hosted the Dakota Bowl, state basketball, and state wrestling in our region, actually in our county. So I was able to do outreach there. Also, not just the teen drivers, did the Senior Safety Academy for the West Fargo Police Department, so we're also reaching all ages. Worked with some local businesses, also some partnership contracts. As you can see up there, that Always Find a Sober Ride sign was for the Big Iron event. So trying to reach anyone and everyone. We understand that sober or distracted driving, impaired driving, yes, we have statistics on maybe our person who is most likely to do it, but again, it doesn't discriminate. It happens across all of our public. So being able to reach as many people as possible in as many different demographics. On the state and national level, I've been able to represent Cass County during this last legislative session. I helped with getting the primary seatbelt law passed, which was phenomenal. It was 20 years in the making. So I helped with that, and also the NDACO conference, representing Cass County there. the State School Resource Officer Conference, the North Dakota Transportation Conference, North Dakota Driver's Ed Conference, and the Lifesavers Conference, which was a national conference in Seattle. And the Vision Zero program was presented on twice to thousands of people as a program that worked really, kind of a pilot program or a program for people to look at in our rural states as something to hopefully strive towards. So it was really phenomenal. And again, it showed the map of where I was, said Cass County, and so it spread information about that you do host me here. And the last place that I have represented Cass County is at the Vision Zero Partner Conference. Catlin, can you go to the next one? So part of the Vision Zero Partner Conference was the Vision Zero Awards. So we were able to, people in Cass County, there was a wide variety, but the ones that are actually employed by our county are the ones I'm going to talk about today, winning awards. So as we go to the next one. So our highway department received the Infrastructure Project of the Year Award for the Cass County Road 11 through Mapleton to help with a pedestrian walking and biking path due to the continued growth in the southern part of the city. So out of all of the state projects, that is what won the Infrastructure Award. As we move on. Sergeant Keenan Zundel won the Traffic Safety Officer of the Year Award. Sergeant Zundel he has been in law enforcement for 13 years. To date, he has 7,000 vehicle stops, which include around 755 DUI investigations, 228 DUI arrests, 221 drug influence evaluations, 80 DRE evaluations, 861 court filings on drug or alcohol charges, and 845 drug and alcohol convictions. So his dedication to traffic safety and his commitment to encouraging other officers within his sheriff's office made a really large impact in the community when it comes to saving lives. And so that's why this year he was selected as the Traffic Safety Officer of the Year. And next award. So the next award went to Jason Benson. So that was our appreciation.
This is a Homer award, I tell you.
Come on. Anyway, so a well-deserved award. It wasn't just a freebie given, well-deserved.
I believe in you.
So Jason really believes in and understands the importance of Vision Zero. So whether he's acting as a transportation and infrastructure subject matter expert on the national level, the state level, all of that, or whether he is providing leadership to us in the highway department, he is a phenomenal leader, and I'm extremely thankful that I get to work with him and I get him as a supervisor. So he prioritized the implementation of the local road safety program that the DOT sent out a while back. Almost everything on the checklist, I believe, was completed. So just having those priorities that were taken care of when it came to traffic safety, he just believes in the program, and I'm really happy that he received this award.
I got a Best Dad trophy yesterday. Not to say there's any similarities here, but just sharing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Would you like me to take your picture with that as well?
That's awesome. All right, you're better than me. Keep going.
No. So to the next one, please. And the last awards, these were not given out at the partner conference, but these were given out actually at the award ceremony for the sheriff's office, but they are from the North Dakota Department of Transportation, and they are commemorative coin awards for traffic safety. So these were given to those recognized by their peers as promoters of traffic safety, enforcers of traffic safety laws, and for the dedication they show to Vision Zero's mission, the state, and their county. So we were able to have all of these deputies and a corporal and a sergeant receive these awards. One humble brag is Cass County received more than any other agency in the state, including statewide agencies, not to name anyone. They also, our region alone, so the southeast region, we received, between the 9 counties, more than all of the 3 other regions combined on traffic safety coins. So it was something that I was really proud of, that we have such great law enforcement officers within our region. So. And as we move on, again, just my quick update. Does anyone have any questions about Vision Zero or what I do? No?
Any questions?
I have to apologize. I signed up for Vision Zero Conference of Bismarck on 2 different occasions, I had to cancel both of them because of conflicts, so. But one of these days I'll get there.
Well, you signed up. You're halfway there. So I do appreciate it. And again, I appreciate so much that I'm hosted in this county. I can't even begin to express how I love going to work every day. So thank you.
Any questions, commissioners? All right, anything further to add on this one?
No.
You're on the next one, too.
I am the next one. I
Okay.
don't have to go very
With
far.
that, we will move on to item 9, Highway Safety Plan Grant.
Yes, so this grant is through the North Dakota Department of Transportation, and it's for the highway safety plan through their federal funds. It would be for up to $100,000 towards the Safer Street Solution smart signs. So these are driver feedback signs. They are the only sign of this type. I saw them when I was in Seattle for the conference. And these signs, unlike just regular radar signs, they also alert drivers if they are on their phones and if they do not have a seatbelt on. So you are able to prioritize based on what you would like it to show. So if someone's going, let's say 10 miles per hour over, you could set it so that the speed shows. Or if you want it to be only distraction related, it could say phone down because it detects a cold item in a warm hand. So it's something that's really cutting edge. We would be the first in the Midwest by far doing this. And this would be a pilot program from the DOT. So hopefully we would do this for 3 years. And then depending on how it went, we would possibly move this throughout the state. The funding, like I mentioned, is up to $100,000. It is fully reimbursed. It's not an 80-20, it would be fully reimbursed. And yes, it covers 3 years for leased equipment. So we wouldn't have to maintain it when we're done. And the maintenance is included in a contract within the proposal. So there would be a little bit of work on Cass County's side, but again, we would be the first in the Midwest and we would have this pilot program for the state. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Captain.
Thank you. I move to authorize the commission chair to sign a grant application for the North Dakota Highway Safety Plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, I have a question.
Surely.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, what else does it detect?
So,
I mean, so if you had a cup of coffee, it would, maybe coffee, maybe a can of beer, because it have to be cold, right? It would
yeah,
tell
so
you to put it down.
But again, it would, regardless, distracted driving is not just a phone. So
Right.
it would detect a distracted driver. And so the verbiage we're able to personalize based on whatever branded verbiage or message we're using statewide. So maybe it would be distraction free or something that would come up on the sign. But it could be something other than a phone, but distracted driving is anything that takes your hands or your off the wheel or your eyes off the road. So
It doesn't detect your eyes, so.
it does. It's an infrared sensor. It does not detect the eyes. No.
So I know some of the newer cars will detect when
Oh, yep.
when you
With
take
the
your,
automated stuff.
your
Yep.
eye off
Yep.
the road or whatever for a period of time, I guess.
Yeah, it's not quite that complex.
Okay.
So, and it's all anonymous data, so it wouldn't pull anything from certain people.
Okay, great, thanks.
There goes me eating my egg McMuffin on the road.
There we go. Well, it'll be warm, so you'll be okay.
Wish they had something to prevent people from driving in the left lane all the time. Some states it's against the law.
Any further discussion on this item? So real quick, I am going to support it, but I'm reluctant.
Okay.
I don't believe in Big Brother.
Yep.
This is Big Brother. And I think for data gathering, it makes some sense. But if it ever got to that next stage of saying, where we take a picture of you and you have a fine and we invade your house and tell you that you can't do these things because it's not good for you, and to the McMuffin example, I didn't support the texting and driving thing either. Because if you're distracted, period. Regardless of whether you're combing your hair, putting your lipstick on, or texting a pal, either you're paying attention or you're not. It's like a hate crime. The guy's more dead because you hated him. The guy is more dead because of whatever. Nah, it's either bad or it's bad. So, again, I'm supporting it, but reluctant, and if it ever gets to that next stage, I'm militant against it.
And that
If
is
we
some-
want to
yeah.
watch our neighbors and put cameras in our houses and cameras on the roads, nope.
And Commissioner, that was something that the reason that it's an infrared sensor is what made DOT interested. The camera is not something that goes with our Century Code. I know that Colorado's also looking at this, and they were having issues getting it passed with cameras, so they're going to be looking at this product as well. It's not something that we're trying to invade or give out any sort of infractions based on taking a picture. So, but I understand.
It's that slippery slope of
Yep.
where things begin, and the left is always so good at slippery sloping things, because they just go, it's not a big deal, it's not a big, next thing you know, you're in a detention camp.
Yeah.
Re-education camps,
So.
like they had in Australia for the people with COVID. Anyway, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Motion passes, thank you.
All right, thank you
Ms. Kelman,
very
anything
much.
further on either, any more questions for our Vision Zero associate? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
On to item 10, Career Innovation Center Pledge, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, last month, my office received the fourth of 5 invoices from NDSCS Alumni Foundation for $1 million following up on the pledge of the board a number of years back for support of the Career Innovation Center. This is part of the 2023 budget, but I would just tell you that it's always a little bit startling when an invoice for $1 million shows up with my name on it. And this is, it's a large expenditure, and we wanted to bring it to your attention and just have the discussion and make sure you were all fully aware that we're paying this. This was something that was committed to in concept of the board a number of years back. We had a conversation at that point of lack of ability to commit further commissions to expenditures, and so it was understood that this would be budgeted for and need to be approved individually in each of the 5 years moving forward. This is the 4th of 5th payment toward that end, and so we just wanted to bring it forward for your awareness and your action.
Yep, real simple. There's no ulterior motive here. There's no red flag. There's no anything. It's a matter of making sure we're all up to speed as to where we are on this. We thought about putting on consent, but I said I wanted the 5 of us to at least get a reminder as to what we're up to. So again, nothing, no alarms, no red flags, just discussion. Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. So Moorhead's had theirs up and running for quite some time. I'd like to hear about this. Where is it at? How many students are enrolled? What are they learning? Who's on the board of directors? How's this money being spent? I know absolutely nothing about this after everybody filed out of here and got the approval.
Yeah, so, and that's why we're bringing it to this point rather than a consent agenda. Where we stand right now is they're still under construction. And I think you could make a point where there was a lot of dynamics behind this project. I think we had some mismanagement issues, to say the least, from some of the boards and directors and people that were in positions of decision-making authority. But where we stand right now is it is under construction. What was the opening date, Mr. Wilson? Was it spring or? I apologize, Commissioner Shirley. We were given a date, and I can't for the life of me remember. I thought it was Commissioner Grinberg or Commissioner Capitan.
It was scheduled for this fall. It's been put back a year, and that's because of COVID delays with federal funding and 2 legislative sessions, 1 special session, and then this most recent that confirmed inflationary dollars. So it's been a long construction project, but it is now moving forward with the federal money and the state money that'll roll out with the final package of bidding, as I understand it.
So as of right now, there isn't anyone in the building other than people pounding nails.
Wouldn't it behoove us for $1 million to have someone come before us and explain where they're at and why they need another $1 million?
I have no problem with that at all.
I mean, I think $3 million has been extremely generous, and I'd like to know where the next $1 million's going.
Commissioner Capitan.
I agree with you, Commissioner Sheridan, but also Part of it was, the building is owned by the Alumni Foundation, which there are 15 or so members on. The architect that drew it up really messed it up and would not give the plans to the president of the Alumni Foundation, so we fired that person and hired a different architect. The north building on 19th Avenue was up for sale. We decided not to sell it because we couldn't conceive that Fargo North students, who have about 300 students going to the North Plaza down south, so we're going to keep that one up there for the students up there. Once this one gets done, it'll be Northern Cass, Central Cass, West Fargo, and Fargo that I'm aware of.
So obviously, there's some oversight that's been missing on this project over the last 3 years, from what I can hear what you're telling me. Certainly, that wasn't what I was sold. I understood that they were selling that building up on the south, on the north side. So I would love to see someone answer our questions and give me an update and assure me that this is money well spent.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but we did have a change in presidents down there too. And so the new president was the one who discussed keeping the north side building.
Well, and maybe
But
that
I
would
agree,
make
we
up
should
for
have
part of
somebody
this
here.
$1 million that we're spending this year. That's an option. Just, I'd like to hear somebody talk to us.
We can certainly arrange a follow-up briefing and action.
This is just too much, just to sign your name.
So, Mr. Chairman, that said, I would also agree. I would further amend and move to table this.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
No.
What are we tabling?
The motion presented before us, this item in its entirety.
Didn't we previously approve the $5 million?
Yes.
For a 5-year program? Why do we have to approve that again?
So it's Mr. Wilson?
And it is that contribution was to be approved annually. So you have approved.
Is that in the minutes?
It's been a few years since I reviewed those minutes, but I'm going to go back and take a look at that.
That is not my recollection either.
We will give you 30 seconds.
As you said, it was to not tie the hands of future commissions. That was.
But I agree with Commissioner Sherling, we should invite Ken Nelson and the president or whoever to come and speak to the issue. Maybe the president of the Alumni Foundation.
In the spirit of a further amendment, with Commissioner Sherling's comments, I felt that's the prudent thing to do, is just to hold this, and I get Commissioner Breitling's point, but ask them to come in 2 weeks. I mean, at a high level, the $5 million was part of an overall package to build out the facility, so, I believe we have to make that commitment. And I wasn't here when the original commitment was made, but I was part of the team that put the project together, so I have a lot of intimate knowledge of up until a certain point. But I think to be fair, and to Commissioner Sherling's question is, have them come here and give us a thorough update.
I think it's a pretty small request, regardless of what the minutes require of us. I just don't know why anyone would hesitate to want to update their major funder on a big project like this. Honestly, it's shocking to me that they're not here. And if we're tabling this at this point in 2 weeks, we can sort that out. Certainly, we must have some sort of agreement that details this more.
Yeah, the motion discussion sort of waiver depending upon federal funding. That was one of the comments I made with Pollock as well. But the motion it says is Mr. Pollock and Commissioner Steen second support the $5 million cost share instruction career workforce academy and roll call vote motion passed. So regardless, we've tabled this for now. The intent would be to have Mr. Wilson and team invite our friends to the next meeting, and we can look at it again then. Any further discussion on this item? All right, moving on. Item 11, 24 primary general election polling locations. Ms. Madriga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm pleased to present to you today the 2024 primary and general election locations. We are expecting that the 2024 presidential election cycle will be a busy one. As such, we're planning to have capacity for upwards of 9,000 voters. We have planned for consistency between elections, and other than one situation, we have successfully secured the exact same 21 locations to operate throughout both the primary and the general elections. 6 locations will be operating during early voting, which will run from Tuesday through Saturday, the week preceding the election day. Some items to note as it relates to the current locations are that West Acres Mall, although they are more than willing to act as a polling location, they're unable to commit to a specific space in 2024 just due to the nature of the retail business. As well, the mall may have a long-term tenant that will occupy that community corner that we were able to utilize in 2022. Therefore, we're going to move the location to the Ramada on 13th Avenue. During the primary early voting election only, the Ramada is already booked and unable to accommodate early voting. Therefore, early voting in the mall area will be at the Holiday Inn on 13th Avenue. The Holiday Inn, because they're unavailable on election day for the primary, this is the one inconsistency. So early voting will be at the Holiday Inn, election day at the Ramada, and that's only the primary. We are representing rural Cass County to the best of our abilities as far as buildings are concerned. So we do have 6 polling locations planned throughout rural Cass for election day. Some to note is Tower City, back up in Arthur, as well as moving into Kindred. We have had wonderful support from our local churches, and they have been willing and able to accommodate us for both election cycles, and generally they provide us with more than ample space at little to no charge. Our most notable change for 2024 will be utilizing the Cass County Courthouse as a polling location during both early voting and on election day. I expect that this will bring a lot of voters through the courthouse and have coordinated with both our Sheriff's Department as well as Buildings and Grounds, as this will require that the courthouse is open outside of normal operating hours. I'm hopeful that this will assist in alleviating some of the traffic to our finance office during early voting because we have a lot of individuals come for absentee application processing in lieu of going to an early voting center. Meanwhile, on election day, there will be 2 other vote centers within our proximity, one up on University at the Olivet Church, as well as the Fargo Civic Center. So hopefully that will alleviate some of the traffic that would come to the courthouse. With that being said, I've provided some maps for each of you within the agenda item, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Madriga. Questions for our finance team regarding elections? These are all vote centers, correct, in all cases?
Correct. All vote centers, so anybody can go anywhere. If I may add one other item to note, there are 21 locations for both the primary and the general, and this is done on purpose. However, I'll adjust the staffing levels to accommodate a lesser turnout in the primary.
So I think one of the most important messages we can convey to the public at large is anyone can go anywhere. So during the last election, I was actually getting people pinging me as to what's going on, why is there a delay? And I said, well, as an example, so the Castleton voting center was at 5 or 10 minutes the entirety of the day. So we had folks waiting in line for 2 hours, or so we were told, and I believe them. I said, well, if you've got that kind of flexibility, you could have driven to Castleton, voted in 5 minutes, and been back to Fargo in less than 45 minutes. And I don't think everyone understood that, and whether, intuitively or otherwise. So the more we can let people know about that, the better. And even to the point of, like at the larger centers, I'm thinking like the Fargo Dome, you could almost have, and I don't mean to micromanage, but just sharing thoughts, is you could almost have a display up, so when you walked in, the app we had, have that app populated right when you walk in. So they walk in and see 2 hours here, and anyone looking at that, they may ignore it, right? And they may say, I had to wait 2 hours. Okay, cool. But when you walked in, you had a display message board saying you had half an hour here, 45 minutes here, so you didn't have to wait. You could have gone here and voted in 10 minutes. I think that would be an incredible little asset to this, and if nothing more than a poster. If we don't want to go electronic, a poster saying you can, big bold, you can vote anywhere, and here's your app, and you can scan the little app thing on your phone and have it pop up and direct us right to that. So anyway, I think that we have, vote centers were the way of the future. We finally got there, and I realize the heavy investment that we, our taxpayers, made on these things, and utilizing them is incredible. But we had, I could talk about the way the last session went in terms of only paper, et cetera, but this has the base of being an incredibly successful election in terms of population, in terms of expediency, as long as the people know there's a lot of flexibility for them. So anyway, questions, team members, comments, concerns?
Just a comment, I appreciate Brandy's diligence in putting this together. I know she's received a lot of feedback, and some of that's reflected in her memo here, so which is important to let the public know, and those that, from a party affiliation know that their concerns have been addressed from the standpoint of, making sure there's a smooth process with our election. So commend you for that, and as we know, moving into this, once we have our plan in place, then it's going to be the judges and all the mechanics that go around having a successful election. So nice work. So,
any questions? Again, this isn't an actional, or is it? What's that? To approve. We want to approve the, yes, sorry.
I would move to, suggested motion to move to approve the primary and general election, early voting and election day polling locations, dates, hours, as presented by the finance.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan? Aye. Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Awesome. Motion passes. Item 12, ballot on demand printer purchase. Ms. Madriga, educate us, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. During the 2023 budget cycle, $60,000 was approved for the purchase of 10 ballot on demand printers to be housed at the finance office for absentee ballot processing, as well as located at a select few vote centers. But before proceeding with the purchasing of ballot on demand printers, North Dakota Century Code does state that we must first receive approval by the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State's office concurs that there will be benefit to the county utilizing ballot on demand systems within the finance office for both absentee processing as well as backup ballot supply. However, at vote centers, the state supports expanding the use of express votes as they can operate as a ballot on demand for our voters. Therefore, we've reduced the number of ballot on demands that we're requesting. Procurement is based on the state contract number 214 and through the state authorized vendor, which is specific to ES&S. ES&S is the same supplier that we utilize for our DS200 machines, our DS450 machines, as well as the standalone election software. So the resulting request is to purchase 6 ballot on demand printers to be utilized strictly by county staff for both absentee ballots and backup ballot stock supply. This purchase requires 4 less printers than originally planned for and will come in under budget by $19,000. A substantial amount of that saving is due to the secured cart that would only be required if the printers are deployed to vote centers. And that is specifically for our chain of custody, and each one of those carts would have run $5,000. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Madriga? And again, I was initially confused with this myself when we ran through it last week, and Mr. Wilson updated me. My logic, right, was, oh, we'll put them at the vote centers, things print them out. Well, that would then be a continuity issue, right? So all of a sudden, the people that think all elections are rigged would automatically say, well, someone printed out 17,000 ballots and filled them out and then put them through the machine. So I get the idea as to why they're remote, why they're not accessible, and why, for continuity, we have our team in charge of them. And again, there's some paranoia that you can have a debate about it a different day. Regardless, I love the technology. I love the ability for us to do this. So, and I love the fact that it's less money, so even better. Further discussion or questions? Commissioner Capitan.
I move to approve the purchase of 6 Ballot on-demand printers.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brightling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Ms. Madriga, anything else?
Nothing else, but thank you all very much. I think this is going to be an amazing election.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, vouchers. Commissioner Brightling.
I've had an opportunity to review and discuss with Sarah Heinley some items in the proposed bill packet, and I move their approval. I would mention that given the budgets coming up, there's a $152,000 expenditure for herbicide by the weed board. And in their discussions about 24 budget, they're looking at maybe a 10 or 11% increase based on herbicide prices and the cost of applicators. Just a warning for your budget processing.
No, they buy in bulk. Commissioner Brightling.
Yeah, move to approval.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Move and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Brightling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Committee reports, Mr. Wilson.
No report.
Nice. Commissioner Brightling.
I have a couple items. One, in the May and June issue of the North Dakota County publication, approximately 1/2 page was given to acknowledge one of our employees, Mr. Deary. We've made a hire here that has proved to be unbelievably rewarding for us as commissioners. He's to be acknowledged, and I was hoping he would be here so that we could extend an appreciation to him for that. Other than that, on the 13th and 14th, I attended the depositions in the Bifford matter. That's moving forward on schedule. The deposition of Mr. Bifford was on the 13th, and a representative from Houston Engineering on the 14th. The trial is to be no later than September 1, and things are moving forward. And it's a trial only before the judge. There's no jury involved. So things are moving forward in that regard. That's the end of my committee reports.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sherling.
No report.
State's Attorney.
Well, since you skipped me last time, thank you. I have a lot to say. First, shout out to my whole department. We are the first in the county to complete all of the IT training this year.
Nice.
Yeah, we did that. Also to the jail chaplains and to Sheriff Johnner and Captain Frobig. They had their annual picnic. It was amazing. I highly recommend people attend next year. Jerry Leach did a fantastic job leading that organization, and it showed by how many people were there to offer their appreciation and congratulations. So
I have attended, not this year, but I have attended, and you are right.
it was outstanding, and the partnership that our jail has with the jail chaplains, I think, is pretty unique and it's pretty special. So I think it's great that we have it. My office is fully staffed finally, as I had mentioned in the rotational meetings, but I expect that we'll be looking for new people again throughout these next few months. Some of my people I think are on to bigger and better things potentially, and I think it shows that Birch did an excellent job hiring people who are very capable, and not only are they wonderful at serving the county, but I think they might be serving in different capacities in the future too. Some of us attended an NDSU meeting. We met with the law enforcement and some of the other university staff there. I think it was a good opportunity to do some relationship building there and continue with the great relationship that we've had with NDSU in the past. Also, we spoke with the village. They'll be producing a short video for us for use with juror support. There have been some comments in the past that when jurors have been sitting on these increasingly difficult personal crimes in particular, it's affected them past their service. So this is an opportunity to get some information out to them if they've had to serve on one of those difficult juries, to let them know that there are things that they can do to help with their mental health after that service. This fall, we will be celebrating 20 years of the adult drug court program being in Cass County. So as soon as our date is approved, I'll be extending an invitation to all of you. Hopefully you'll attend to help support that great program that we have. We've had some people out at national trainings. Meg Nedham, who is the office manager for our office, just returned from extradition training after losing both Lisa Urbanius from our office, who was an expert in that area, as well as the representative from the Attorney General's office. It's needed that we're having people who are up to speed on those procedures because we're processing inmates through on a fairly regular basis. I was also out at a training on the National Consortium on Racial and Ethnic Fairness in the Courts. I was in Seattle. That was excellent as well. Also, I had an opportunity to participate in a Department of Justice program with both U.S. Attorney Max Schneider and Fargo City Attorney Nancy Morris. It was held locally, and it was specifically about protecting houses of worship. And that is the report that I have this week.
Thank you. Commissioner Capitan, please.
No report.
Commissioner Goodberg?
Other than that, I'm going to have breakfast with Aaron Burst on Friday morning, so I get a chance to start connecting with the association.
Anything further, sir? Ms. Madriga?
Thank you. Just one update as far as our election administrator position. We have successfully filled it with with Craig Steingard, who was previously the election coordinator. So I think this one's going to stay with us for the long haul. And now we're off to backfilling the election coordinator. And I have high hopes there. The posting, I believe, will close at the end of next week. And hopefully, if all goes well, we could have someone in there by August.
Anything further?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I have been a busy bee out to the Insurance Reserve Fund meeting, so out to an NDACO meeting. Just sort of been chugging around and keeping busy. I was appointed as part of one of 5 commissioners to the AI task force for the Association of Counties, and those of you that acknowledge me, thank you for paying attention to that little press release. But my first meeting is tomorrow. Where and what it will be, I have no idea. I've been on multiple radio stations. I've been on the paper. We'll see what comes of it. And like I'm trying to tell everybody, this isn't the terminator part, right? We're the administrators. So someone in the National Defense Organization, Homeland Security, is working on the terminator part of the AI stuff. This is just to figure out what local government and how we can benefit and how it may harm us. And the one message I've conveyed in every one of my communications has been, we can utilize this to extract ourselves, humans ourselves, from interaction with one another. But we did that during COVID, and taking ourselves out of our lives with each other is to our detriment, from littles to bigs, from youngs to olds. And I think that it's not good. We can use AI for remedial things and in menial things, maybe answering a phone call here or there. But from my perspective, that's where it stops. We use it for as little as it can be utilized for in terms of interactions between people. But if we can take the mundane out, great. Beyond that, no. People are people, and that's what makes us whole, that's what makes us good, that's what makes us a community. Extracting ourselves from that is to the detriment of all of us. With that, correspondence.
No correspondence.
Last item, is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adjournment, saying goodbye by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your week. Stay happy.